Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring guests and topics that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very excited to have as a guest, Greg Elliott. And let me tell you a little bit about Greg. He is an exercise physiologist, osteopath, and entrepreneur who is on a mission to help everyone own their health through education, motivation, and accountability. He is a heart rate variability and wearable technology thought leader, speaker, and sought after healthcare practitioner. Greg knows the struggle of the juggle, I love that, and keeping health a priority. He believes in a whole health approach that is supported by emerging technology so everyone can live a long, healthy, happy life. There will be many nuggets of information and inspiration to act to be your healthiest self. And that's a guarantee when you connect with Greg. Today, of course, our topic is going to be how to take control of your health. Please join me in welcoming Greg Elliott. Greg, so excited to have you on today.
Oh, this is great. No, it's timely with obviously with the way the world is and everything's pushing towards health span and longevity. I think a lot of people are confused. So the hope is to be able to clarify some of the important things people can do to maintain their health and well-being.
So before we get into the hard meat questions, I always ask, where do you call home? Where do you live?
Yeah, Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah,
So
I love Vancouver.
Yeah, no, it's I spent a lot of time on the East Coast for my education, but I've always knew that Vancouver would be home. So came back in 2013 and been here since.
Oh, wow. I think I was there 2017. I think 2017 is when I was there, but I loved it. Definitely want to go back. All right. So for me, being 65, whenever I was in my late 50s, I decided, okay, my daughter's married now. She's going to be making me some grandbabies. And I don't want to be that grandma that can't chase after her kiddos. But also, without even knowing that this career that I was going to do after retirement what that would be. But I knew that I loved to speak and I was on stages with Toastmasters and whatnot. And I wanted to make sure that I had the stamina and the mind and to bring that energy every time I spoke. And you have to be healthy. That's why I loved whenever you were in your opening about the juggle, because we tend to just go, 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 go. And we forget that you have to refuel and you have to really replenish and exercise and all those things. So I was very excited. I do have an Oura ring and I do have a watch and all those little things that the technology is really helping us be more accountable. So talk to us about that heart rate variability and how important it is for us to be aware.
Yeah, it's a really good lead into the question, and it's very a very big concern with a lot of the people that I see, both virtually and in person. Is we're all busy. We all have so many things going on at the time, and people want to know, what can I do to make sure that with the limited time that I have, that I'm making the right choices. Obviously and we can always eat better. We can always exercise more. We can always get more sleep and rest, and we can always de-stress and do those activities and connect with other people. But we got to be able to prioritize those for each individual to understand which one may be right now of more value than others. And this is where heart rate variabilities actually provide a significant amount of information back to not only practitioners, but individuals themselves. So what is heart rate variability? Most people hear it and it sounds somewhat familiar, and most people think of heart rate and they think of 60 beats per minute and 90 beats per minute and everything. But what we want to know, what heart rate variability differs, is that we actually look at the frequency at which those beats occur. So a patient and I can have very similar heart rates at 60 beats per minute. That's our resting heart rate, where mine beats like a metronome, super consistent on the second, every second, where theirs varies. It goes up and down, speeds up and slows down during that restful time. Now, we have the same amount of beats, but how they occur are drastically different. And what research shows now is that people that have more variability are healthier, happier individuals. And you look at longevity and health span, those people live longer, healthier lives.
Very good. And so what are some of the tools that we talked a little bit about? There's also, and I can't remember what it is, although I bought it for my husband and I don't think he's ever used it, where you put your fingers on. I can't remember the name, so maybe you can just share. But how good is that, and why should we use that or not? And I know that it does feed the information to your doctor. So I do life scans every year so that my doctor can see when I'm healthy, and then as I'm aging, what's the difference? So talk to us about that a little.
Yeah, so how to measure it. Many different ways to measure it. And I'd say there's like kind of three major ways that people do it in the real world. Now kind of, as we talked about the Oura Ring, the other wearables or smartwatches that are out there, there's that passive capture where you have these wearables, and how they capture is actually they look at nocturnally. So through your sleep, they gather a bunch of information that could be every minute, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, depending on the device, but it captures a bunch of this data. And it's pretty good quality data, with the fact that one of the limitations with these wearables is because they rely on light sensors to gather this information, is that with motion, it makes it less reliable to have good quality data coming back. Obviously, during sleep, there's a lot less motion happening. So we actually get some pretty good quality data through various wearables, like the Oura Ring being one of them, now more than ever before. We always knew that would be the gold standard if we can measure it during sleep. But before wearables came out with any kind of accuracy, people didn't want to have to wear a heart rate strap through the night or whatever it may be. So now the ability to capture that is a very high level. And now we're trying to figure out how to best utilize that information. The second way, which was commercially the first way that people measured heart rate variability, would be first time in the morning. And so this is where you have apps like Elite HRV, which I think you're talking about, the Core Sense, which is the finger-based wearable that looks like the little pulse oximeter that you would have at the hospital, a little wireless way to do that. People would wake up, they would go to the bathroom. We would suggest to go to the bathroom, and they come back, and then they would take their resting heart rate variability at that time. We anticipated that being at the highest moment, right now, and being relatively consistent. Seems to be a good way. It takes a measurement anywhere from about a minute to 5 minutes, depending on the device. And you would use typically a heart rate strap, or they have the camera sensor on the phone that you can utilize that as well. So that's a second way that people do it. The last way would be more for like acute stress management. So in the moment, they would pick any time of the day. Then when you sit down and look at your heart rate variability to determine, I'm in sympathetic or a fight or flight state. Is my body stressed, or am I parasympathetic, rest and digest, relaxed state? And then based on the information coming back, you can introduce various techniques like breathing or meditation or any type of in the moment interventions that would provide some stress relief at that point. So the difference between the measurements is, one, the nocturnal and the in the moment in time in the morning look at more chronic stress over periods of time, when you have that standardized metric of saying, are my overall behaviors the right behaviors to do? versus in the moment of saying, am I in a stress state and I need to intervene at a specific moment?
Wow. So, whenever I use my smartwatch, it's more so to do steps. I see how my sleep is. And we talked a little bit about, you could sleep, but a lot of people, especially postmenopausal women and things, don't sleep very well. Even, like my son-in-law, who's an accountant and high pressure kind of things going on, maybe sleeps 3 or 4 hours, always a problem. So how can we use these smartwatches to calm us, some of the apps that are on there and things like that?
Yeah, it's a great case example in regards to sleep. So you said two different ways. One with the obviously hormonal imbalances and a change of life in regards to people's physiology that alters sleep, and then you have some individual that has more of maybe a stress related work instance.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the problem with a lot of the wearables, is they'll just say your sleep is poor.
Mm-hmm.
And you need more context to provide the actionability, because I always ask that question with practitioners that say they always want to integrate wearables and go, great. So it says that someone's REM sleep's low. What do you do about it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's about understanding that individual of why that's there. And we're coming to the root causes of things, is that a poor sleep quality can come from many different things, sleep hygiene being one of those. It can also come from poor dietary choices. It can come from lack of exercise. It can come from, again, work, family, life stressors, our social determinants of health, our circumstances and our environments. All of these things will play into what's going on. Where I see wearables being absolutely fantastic is there's a lot of great evidence of showing, things that could be diagnosed with wearables, but I don't think that's the big benefit right now. I think the big benefit is looking at behavior change, looking at accountability around certain things, right? So to me, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but I want something that's relatively reliable and show me the trends in the right direction, be able to say, hey, when I do some sort of intervention, we're going the right way. And so where I see wearables being fantastic, and HRV in particular, it gives you that feedback of, if you change something in your life, whatever it may be, change jobs, change locations, change exercise routine, change the way that you manage stress or think about stress, it can give you that kind of real life immediate feedback as to, is it actually making a meaningful difference? I mean, how many times have you heard individuals, well, I tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know that it didn't work? What measure, you just going to subjectively how you feel? And we know sometimes that introspectively, we may not be super accurate as to what's actually going through our body. I see that all the time with people that are suffering from what I call the invisible illnesses, things that aren't objectively measured, like chronic pain or post-concussion syndrome or depression and anxiety, where you rely primarily on subjective values, where I can have this objective measurements of these wearable devices to say, hey, when we do these things, we're actually making a meaningful difference. You may not feel subjectively right now, but your physiology is changing. We're on the right path. It's worthwhile for you to continue with this intervention, rather than saying, hey, do journaling or do this type of exercise, and there's no real benefit, both objectively and subjectively. So it provides that great feedback to determine, if you're struggling with fatigue or energy levels or pain or any of this type of symptomology, that gives you the feedback that what you're doing is actually working for you.
So you mentioned journaling, and that was one of the next things I was thinking. Would it not be helpful to do both, where you can write down how you think you feel and everything, and then be able to correlate that with what the technology is telling you?
I absolutely agree. And I think sometimes we go through down the roads that subjectivity doesn't matter and it's only objective. And you need both of those things. Like, I need to know how my individual responds, because to give you an idea of you can do a phenomenal assessment of someone's health, right? You can look at all areas under the sun, and you can have a standardized way of saying, hey, this one is more important for your health and well-being. Nutrition's more important than work on your emotional regulation, or your relationships is a bigger focus than your sleep hygiene right now. But if that is not of value to the individual, they feel that that's in their needs of best interests, like it's difficult. It doesn't match their goals of what they want to be able to achieve, then you're not getting anywhere. So objectivity provides a good, to me, it's a talking point. It's discussion around these things. If something is not the way that it should be, and what are options for us to be able to go? And that's where the subjectivity of the individual comes in, is they have to determine, are these the right type of interventions I want to do at the right time, as well as the feedback. This isn't, it's making me feel worse. I'm getting, I'm not feeling very good. And you weigh the good and the bad. Sometimes, again, you can have something that's phenomenally subjectively, where I feel like $1 million, but in the grand scheme of things, nothing really changes in regards to physiology and vice versa. And both of those had to be taken into account. It's like, if it's not a big behavior change, in the sense that your subjective improves, right? I feel happier, I have more energy, phenomenal, but it doesn't change your physiology, but you want to continue doing it. Great. Over time, it's going to absolutely benefit to you. But, sometimes it's not enough. The fact that I don't want to do this anymore, I don't think that it's working subjectively to me, even with objective feedback, that's of value as well to determine the right treatment plan for that individual.
Wow. So how do we make the most impact to our health? What steps should we do to, and taking into account, as you advised, little steps at a time?
To me, it's about getting at least a baseline of to where your health is at, right? I mean, there's many free tools to do various assessments, validated assessments that are out there, various things of whole health areas, as well as one thing I always mention to individuals, if they haven't in the last year or 2 years, have an extensive amount of kind of blood analysis done, just from a physiologist, to see where your body's at. So you have an objective marker of your health, you have subjective markers of your health, and you see where there's a discrepancy between these things. Where are some areas to be able to investigate from there? And then this is where wearables come in phenomenal, is you can also get a baseline of where things at based on the device that you measure with, whether it's your heart rate variability, whether it's your sleep, whether it's your activity. And then from there, you want to look at kind of the 5 big pillars of looking at health and well-being, and start to tweak those and see what the outcomes are in regards to your health metrics. So the big 5 is obviously sleep is the big one, physical activity and exercise, nutrition, stress management, and connection with people. Yeah. So those are the big 5. You start to play within those. I mean, each one of those has its own, specifics, right? You talk about nutrition, you talk about there's quality food, there's quantity of food, there's supplementation, there's lifestyles and modifications around that. So there's many nuanced approaches that are in nutrition, but it's about dialing those things. Maybe you always want to try intermittent fasting and just didn't know if it was going to be beneficial or if it actually made sense for you to be able to do, and you can be able to track those things. So I think the most important thing is get a baseline as to where you're at. I think most people are very surprised. I see this all the time when people get their blood work back, is, well, I had no idea that this was abnormal, or not where it should be, and how does that translate into various choices that I'm making, and what am I willing to be able to alter in that standpoint. Like, so for instance, if cortisol is high, and cortisol is a marker of stress, so if your body's in a stress state, your cortisol goes up. There's many ways to de-stress the body, right? There's proper food, there's starting to get some exercise, there's more sleep. I mean, there's many different areas and interventions to be able to do. So try a few things and see necessarily what happens. What's phenomenal about cortisol and stress and HRV is a direct correlation between those. So as stress goes down with your body, your heart rate variability goes up, and vice versa. So you start to see in real time on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to measure cortisol every single day. You can actually get immediate feedback from wearable devices to determine, hey, I'm going in the right direction, making these choices, or maybe this isn't the best intervention for me this time, and change and be able to figure out what I need to do to making sure that I live a healthy life.
Wow. So what is the difference or correlation, alignment between your health span and longevity? 2 different terms.
Yeah. So longevity kind of has both what we call health span and lifespan. So longevity is looking at both of those things independently. Health span is how long we can live a healthy life, high quality of life, right? It's okay, we can live longer, but what happens is Peter Tia has now brought this to light a lot, is the fact that, things slip off. We start going down this poor health rabbit hole before we notice, and some event happens, whether it's a a heart attack, or all of a sudden we go to the doctor and in our cholesterol's through the roof, or whatever it may be, that there's some sort of intervention, but our quality of life and our kind of trajectory of what we could do has already been altered at that specific time. And we've done a lot of work of maintaining that quality of life for an individual. It's rarely that we improve it. We just kind of maintain it just so it doesn't get necessarily worse into where the quality of life is extremely poor. But the key with HealthSpan is understanding of that prevention model, is looking at all these factors, getting this analysis understanding done, so we don't fall into that trap of we're okay, and something happens down the road. You hear it all the time of people that had a heart attack out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. It came from something. They just weren't paying attention to that. Right. And I think men are extremely more vulnerable to this, of ignoring these things. I see it continuously where they just ignore problems as, just noise. Like, I'm tired, I'll just push through more coffee. I'll just make sure I exercise harder. I'll keep going along. And all of a sudden they're diagnosed with hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. And they're like, well, where did this come from? And it's just been brewing. It's been ignoring it, where I think females have a unbelievable interoception and understanding of their physiology. When things start to change, they seek out help more. And I think that's a big indication of why their quality of life, significantly improves and stays high, where men have these kind of drastic changes into their health and well-being. So HealthSpan is really focused on making sure that you, from a very high level, are keeping track of all the stuff you're keeping track of, and preventing things from getting worse before waiting for an event to happen, and then trying to be able to figure out treatment from there. And the benefits of medicine and health has never been in the treatment side. It's been about detecting before any other detection is possible, of understanding of the initial precursors that lead to the development of cancer or diabetes or heart disease. It's about intervening early and not treatment after it's already there.
Yeah. And it's so true about men. I think part of it is, with women, we have gynecologists and breast exams and all of those things throughout our years, and so we're at the doctors more often. And you do, I think we are more in tune with things when they don't feel right. But
Absolutely.
But I still think that a lot of people see the warning signs and ignore them because they're afraid of what they might know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think that's why, and I think they can almost, I'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it later until later becomes now. It's quite often that that you see that. Like, I'd say, say the chronic pain individuals, I get people that they're told they need a knee replacement, and I don't want to do anything to have a knee replacement. Where I would see some individuals, mainly females, of saying, I have a pain in my knee, doesn't feel right, I want to make sure that it doesn't get worse, so that the knee replacement doesn't necessarily happen. And so that's where I see the biggest discrepancies is usually takes a much larger punch in the face from a health scare perspective to get some individuals in to be able to seek that care when they realize their health is at risk, and ignoring the warning signs completely of what I like to call autonomic dysregulation of the anxiety feelings, of the pain feelings, of the fatigue, these warning signs of ill health before they become much larger chronic diseases and illnesses.
Yeah. So time for rapid fire already. What are some of your favorite types of technology that's out there to help us be healthier?
Yeah, again, wearables is a big piece of that. I think that's phenomenal. It's non-invasive, it's continuous. They're getting cheaper and cheaper. I think Fitbit's got one that's $99 now. For you to be able to kind of make drastic changes into your health and well-being. But touring a lot of the US, I know it's rapid fire, so I'll try to be quick, but there's so many unbelievable technologies that are just starting to come to light now with the researchers. There's a lot of stuff that isn't out yet, that will be out, that are just going to revolutionize the way we look at health.
Yeah. All right. So what's next up for you? Any books or any trips to the US speaking?
Yeah, I do it quite often. I just finished a big turn this last 9 months of a specific talk that I gave. I'm just reworking that to a new talk now, and putting the applications and for 2024 in regards to all these type of talks. That's a big thing for me. Working on various ebooks, just to be able to see what people like and what don't like. So I'll be putting out in the next few months here some free resources for people about wearables, about heart rate variability, and kind of gauge the interest in where people are wanting more type of information from there. So those are kind of the two big things on the horizon from a personal standpoint.
That sounds great. Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back to hear where we are in a few months, huh?
Absolutely.
All right. If you have been intrigued and interested in what Greg has been saying, as I have been, let me share my screen so you can get his contact information. As always, I remind you that if you were just listening to this podcast, I will give you orally the website information, but you can get it if you go to my findyourleadership.com website, as well as on my YouTube channel. You can subscribe and get all my podcasts there. His website is https:// www.Greg Elliott, so that's GregElliott.ca, GregElliott.ca. On LinkedIn, you can find him at Greg R. Elliott, and on Instagram, Greg R. Elliott, R like Ralph. Okay. And I'll let him talk to you about his call to action.
Yes. So if you're interested in any of those, metrics and want to kind of a big overview of your health and well-being, I do some consultations. I do a quick discovery call, making sure that I'm the right fit. I have a vast network of people that do consultations. If you're a better fit for somebody else, I'll send you over to them. Also, if you do have a wearable, like a Fitbit or an Oura Ring or whatever, I started a company. It's a software company. We have a mobile app. It's called Health QB. And what we do is we ask you a bunch of questions around your whole health. And we take the data from your wearable with these questions, and we give you a prioritized list of health behaviors that needs to be addressed more. So from a very high level, do you need to focus on more your nutrition than your purpose in life? Do you need to work on your interoceptive awareness or your sleep hygiene? So we try to be able to prioritize that list for individuals, and then we provide resources and like podcasts and products and books that are about those specific areas that we highlight to support you in changing those behaviors.
Very good. Thank you, Greg, for being such a wonderful guest. It's been great hearing about the technology, but as I think a wonderful reminder of everyone that, you only have this one life. And I trust me, I can tell you from experience, whenever you get old, if you don't take care of it, you could be sitting in a wheelchair, or you could be stuck in bed because you didn't listen to your body. So do all you can to listen to your body and respond properly, and seek out people like Greg to help you figure out the best way to do it all. So as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.